the news in September 2022, 2025. And if you like these videos, please subscribe me and have to click a like. News is about the American threatening broadcaster. Trump takes a page from the world's Autocrats. A comedian steps onto the stage and makes a joke or barbed comment that offends a powerful leader, or maybe it's a cartoon or television program that pushes buttons. Regardless, the targets and their ick accuse the creators and their boss of violating moral standards and national virtues. Then the state cracks down. The authorities issue stress exerts financial pressures and heat at shutdowns as the humorous hire lawyers, executives cover, and everyone lends the abuse. Nothing negative or embarrassing will be allowed about the government or its friends. Those who live in China, India, Iran, Russia, Turkey, and Venezuela are familiar with this scenario. Each is governed with various levels of authoritarianism. All have seen comedians, broadcasters, journalists, and cartoonists squeeze towards silence. Now, President Trump, with his threat on Tuesday to revoke broadcasting license from network with late-night hosts who make jokes or comments at his expense, has pushed the United States closer to that club, with lawsuits against media companies, cuts to public broadcasting, and threats to resist license or deny mergers while rewarding friendlier outlets. Mr. Trump's tactics fit the disturbing global pattern. Controlling information and media is one of the earlier and necessary steps of the authoritarian, said Jennifer McCoy, a professor of political science at Georgia State University, who studies the deterioration of democracy. Then repressing dissent and criticism, not just among the media, but among political opponents and citizens' fellows. No experts or organizations that check free expression is comparing Mr. Trump to the world's greatest violators. The world's authoritarian regimes have murdered critics and imprisoned anyone deemed questionable. Many dictators shut down newspapers and seized television networks when they came to power. But the United States has historically been a defender of free speech, and the tactic Mr. Trump has embraced, suggesting that only presidentially approved opinions are valid and protected, placed the United States in awkward company. Freedom of expression is deteriorating in American and 43 other companies, a quarter of the world's nations, according to the 2025 Democracy Report issued by the Swedish-based Biden Institute. That's up from 35 a year earlier, and the institute says the problem has been getting worse for at least a decade. In democracies and dictatorships, those who bundle their critic quiz with humor have become frequent targets. Once, prosecutors filed morality charges against Gymnast Musawi, one of the first women to do stand-up comedy in the country, over a video that added explicit language to an epic poem about pre-Islamic Iran. It was at least the third time she'd been summoned by the police since she created her character Express or Kujun, a parody of an old preacher who wears a hijab that reveals only her nose. In Turkey, in July, 4 Cantonese were arrested over an image in a satirical magazine called The Mar that seemed to be a caricature of Moses and the Prophet Muhammad fraternizing in heaven as Buddhists fled between Judaism and Muslim. Below, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan condemned the image as a bare provocation, and one of the Cantonese was charged with insulting the president. In India, another country where free expression has eroded, even obscure jokes about local politicals have proved to be off limits. At a comedy club in Mumbai in March, Kamal, one of India's last comedians still engaging in political humor, sang a playful song that used the word "gadar" or cheater, apparently in reference to a local politician. That was all it took for the state chief minister to call for legal action and for government employees to vandalize and ransack the comedy club. Helmut K. Anhiel, a sociology professor at the Goethe School in Berlin, said the dynamic of attacking free expression and seeking to punish elites for populist political gain was first identified by the sociologist Antonia Gramsci when the Italian fascists imprisoned him in the 1920s. For many demagogues then and now, Mr. Anhiel said the goal is to achieve cultural and political dominance, or as other scholars have put it, to reshape what the public sees as common sense. Forcing independent institutions to submit is simply part of the effort to enforce a new narrative, to mythologize a rising strongman at the expense of public freedoms. The old is dying and the new cannot be born. Gramsci wrote around 1930, while still behind bars in this interim, a great variety of movies sometimes appeal. China is perhaps today's most successful master of expression management, where controls have embedded and flowed over the decades under Xi Jinping. Beijing has tightened current, turning news outlets, films, comedy, and social media into carefully monitored forms of government-approved messaging. As part of the 2016 tour of Chinese media outlets, Mr. Xi explicitly declared that media sponsored by the party and government, which includes nearly all major media outlets in China, should serve as propaganda platforms for the party and government. Since then, investigated journalists who once held the government to account for abuse of power or corruption, even as they were employed by state-controlled outlets, have all but vanished in a pattern found elsewhere, including Hungary and Russia. Loyalists have been installed at once independent publications. The authorities have also tightened controls over movies and books, putting them under the direct supervision of the Communist Party's propaganda department. Censors keep watch not only for political content, but also for anything deemed out of line with the party's priorities. The risk of overstepping can be immense. In 2020, Hong Kong's public broadcaster ran an episode hit Dyer, its signature satire program, suggesting that the police were holding marks at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. The show has been doing this sort of since 1989, months after that one episode. It was X. In 2023, a stand-up performance in Beijing was accused of insulting the Chinese military with a joke involving stray dog. The authorities imposed a roughly $2 million fine on the comedy studio where the performer worked. The police in northern China, far from the crowd, also detained a woman who had defended the comedian online. In the United States, satire and criticism, often including sharp insults and investigations into potential corruption by the Trump family, continue to flow through the media to large audiences. But at birth are flashes of a familiar authoritarian, as Mr. Trump threatens broadcaster license or fires lawsuits against universities and newspapers like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Mr. Trump's licensing stressed federal ABC's decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel's show indefinitely under pressure from the Federal Communications Commission's chairman, Brenda Kell. He had criticized Mr. Kimmel for comments about Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, insisting that Trump's supporters were desperately trying to characterize this kid who modeled Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. And Mr. Trump said the maybe cancellation of the show was not enough. In those stress of regulations, aggression, Italians seem zealous of Giovaino Berlusconi, who is combined political power and media ownership. Bradiskin created and pressures executives to silence dissent. Managulans record Hugo Shepard revolting radio license and forcing television networks to broadcast his populist speeches. Better omen or Hungary, a hero to the Trumpians' right, used tax policy to harass and weaken major media outlets. Russian scholars, however, see a parallel to Mr. Trump's rise against late-night comedian in Vladimir Putin earlier years of yours in Moscow. At the time, a satirical TV show called Cookie used oversights somehow grotesque puppies to parody political figures and current events, from the war in Chechnya to President Brzezinski and Yeltsin heavy drinking in the post-Soviet 1990s, as Russia sought to portray itself as a democracy. The show was mostly tolerated even by the Kremlin. But that changed when Mr. Putin rose to power, first through harassment and then an outright takeover by the state oil monopoly. He refashioned the once independent network that ran the program into a friendly outlet without a cookie. In general, few authoritarian leaders has a sense of human or even fear can laugh at themselves, said Daniel Terryman, a political scientist professor at the United States of California, Los Angeles, and an expert in dictatorship. Putin was said to be enraged by his portrayal as an evil draft. Mr. Trump may also mean taking jokes personally or challenging the outrage of his political base. They give me only bad publicity, Mr. Trump said of the major networks, to which many Russians have already responded. Watch out, American, what will come next. Bitter Senderovich, the main writer for Kuri, was later forced to flee Russia because of government harassment and death threats. Many others who work on the comedy show also fled their homeland in fear. Thanks for listening. Wish your life was full of enjoy and happiness.